Caldwell. Scared me. Good to see you, Coach. Tennessee football last year, 9 wins, bowl game, spanked Iowa 35-0 in the Citrus Bowl. Coach Heupel's teams have won 20 games in the last 2 years, and the future is very, very bright for Tennessee football. Please welcome our head coach, Josh Heupel. Tennessee basketball won the SEC championship. Went to the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament. Only the second time in history. Coach Barnes has been in the NCAA tournament 28 times. I was waiting for it. I thought you said 28. The fourth most in history. He's tied with Bobby Knight. Our great head coach, Rick Barnes. Kim, I will start with you, ladies first.
Hold on. Before we get started, everyone should know it's a very special day for Mr. Kessley. He was just elected to the Tennessee, what was it? I forgot.
I don't know what it is.
Broadcasters Hall of Fame.
Tennessee Radio. It's the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame.
Hey, what is that?
It's a very
Hey,
prestigious.
congratulations. How many years now? 50? 55?
I've been doing Tennessee games for my 26th year coming up.
How long have you been in radio?
Started in 1974.
I think that was the year I was born.
No, that's not true at all. Anyway,
You sure about that?
Kim, you see, he dishes out a very nice compliment and then he just slaps your backhand. I mean, it's amazing. But we love him. We love you, Coach.
Well, no, really, congratulations. That's a great honor.
Thank you.
I mean, it really is. Give me a hand again. That's a great honor.
We announced it on 104.5 today. Mike Keith was here, and we're very proud. In the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame, Lindsey Nelson and John Ward went in the first class. Mike Keith, of course, for his great work on Tennessee baseball and on the Ball Network, and then myself tonight. So we got 4 Ball Network announcers in the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame. That's pretty special.
Here's what I want you to know. Pat Summit got him to the door. In the last 9 years, I've gotten through the door. I want you to tell the Pat Summit story. Tell the Pat Summit story.
Tell the Pat Summit story. Pat had just won her first national championship, and so I took her to lunch and I asked her, what happened, and she'd been to the Final Four 7 times and hadn't won, and so I asked her what turned it around for you. She said, well, I had to coach better, I had to work harder, I had to look at who were recruiting. I went up and talked to Phil Jackson about running the triangle offense for Shamika Holzclaw. I went to Jim Boeheim and learned how to play the zone. I just had to be a better coach. And I said, well, okay. So I was going to ask her, and I didn't ask her to call him, but I says, I needed a little inspiration to get better, because I've been doing the same thing for about 6 or 7 years.
And he had applied for about 15 jobs.
Good job, so. And I said, so she said, I don't know who they hire and how they pick people to do your job, but my guess, and she gave me the Summit stare, she goes, my guess is you're just not good enough.
Hey, she was on top of it.
She hit me with a hammer. But what she said is, I put your broadcasts over our games, because I did the Lady Vols for 18 years, and I think you do great, but somebody doesn't think you're very good, so get better. Just go to work tonight and get better. And the next year, I started doing SEC games for Jefferson Pilot, because I took her to heart and got better. And That's what you do.
But the last 9 years, come on, man.
That's the last 9 years, yeah. I've learned to be defensive over the last 9 years with some of the assaults, but can I talk to Kim, please, Coach? Thank you.
Please do.
Kim, welcome. And you talking about things going fast. I bet things have been going really fast for you, haven't they?
They have, and this is incredible. I was warned that it was going to be amazing, but I think all I do every day is say wow and wow to this turnout.
You started your coaching career at Glenville State. Talk a little bit about, we were on the plane, I asked you what your recruiting budget was at Glenville State, Division II school.
Our total budget, we didn't have a recruiting budget. Our total budget was $24,000. And so we just had to spin that however we needed to spend it.
So you learned be creative on the recruiting trail.
Be
Is that
creative,
paying
in
dividends?
everything, and spread your money and do a lot of fundraising and make sure that you give them what they need.
You won a national championship though at Glenville State, and then you had a chance to move to Marshall. How was that transition?
It was a big jump. Thankfully, there were some familiar faces and we were in state, but it was definitely a big jump and I learned a lot, but I think I've learned more in the first 3 weeks of this job than I had in that jump. It's a whole different ballgame, but I'm happy to be here.
Sun Coach of the Year. You took Marshall to the NCAA tournament. They hadn't been in a long, long time. So you learned a lot about that, and you think, okay, we're going to keep building this Marshall program, and then Danny White calls it.
Exactly, and here I am.
Were you surprised? Was Tennessee even on the radar screen for you?
No, I was surprised. I was honored. It's just such an amazing opportunity, and I'm very, very thankful and grateful to be here.
How has it been though when you see all the support? I know you've had practices already. You've had some alumni come back, so you kind of understand the power of the Lady Ball brand, don't you?
Oh, absolutely, and it's one of a kind. It's the best of the best, and I'm thankful to be here again. I'll say it over and over and over, and it'll be a little bit of a broken record, but there's not a better women's basketball job in the country, and I could have worked my entire life and maybe never had this opportunity again. So I'm thankful to Danny White. I'm thankful to everyone who's been so kind and so gracious, because you can't even dream this big. You cannot even dream this big.
Well, Danny White wouldn't have hired you if anything you can do. Coach, I know you've been awful quiet. How has spring practice been so far?
Keep it that way all night if you want to. Spring practice was great. This is heading into our 4th year. I've said it a lot here. It's the deepest that we've been on our roster. You can just look at pure scholarship numbers and understand that, but length, athleticism. But this group, as much as anything, the thing that I remember about them during the course of spring practice, every day they stepped out there, man, they were intentional in the growth of their development, fundamentals, technique, such consistent competitors. Really liked what we did during the practices.
When you came here, numbers were small, didn't have many linemen. You slowly built it back up, and you could tell on the practice field in the orange and white game, there's competition all over the field at wide receivers and the offensive and defensive line, and that's something you haven't had.
Yeah, I think our first spring we might have been right around 56 scholarship players that were with us. We added some in the portal during spring before we got to training camp, 64, 65 by the time we got to training camp. The depth of it, but length, athleticism, there's competition that creates urgency in the meeting room, out on the practice field, doing extra things on your own. It's a completely different program at this time than it was when we first got here, and understanding that as much as we like, we just got done with exit interviews, a purposeful plan for each player, how they got to grow to be ready to go compete at a championship level by the time we get to fall.
People want to know, that's one of the first questions, how did Nico do this spring, and how much growth did he have this spring?
Yeah, I think the bowl game for him was critical. He grew throughout the course of the season in his preparation, but the urgency you feel when you're going to be the guy and you know you're going to be the guy, it's different than, you're the backup quarterback, you get thrust into a middle of a ball game, you don't even know what's going to happen, you don't have time to think. Just understanding how to handle that process was big for him. Great urgency from him as he came back, has spent a bunch of time before we got to spring ball just diving deeper into understanding what we're doing offensively, the why behind it, which is really important, because when you see the different defensive structures that you're going to see, being able to see it, react to it, and go to the right spot, continue to get better fundamentally, consistent with his accuracy. And as a young quarterback, you're trying to master everything that goes into playing that position, which is really difficult. He's continued to grow as a leader. That process is going to continue to unfold as we go through the fall. You start a young quarterback, they mature and grow into that.
Speaking about competition, you got competition at wide receiver, and Brew McCoy's coming back, and Dante Thornton's coming back, so those are the big guys. But you added some new players too.
I said it earlier, but pure numbers. Last year, I think we were at 6 scholarship wide receivers. We're at 9 right now, I believe. You talked about Brew coming back. Man, he's all the adversity that young guy has had to go through before he got here. Then when he got here to Tennessee, is he going to be eligible or not? And then facing the adversity of the injury, all the things that he's gone through, couldn't be more proud of a young man. He's in a great space physically, mentally, emotionally, all of that right now. He took a video the other day of him running, shot it to me. He looks great. Excited to see him continue to grow and get ready for training camp. But the other guys that are coming back, Caleb Webb, Chaz Nimrod, two guys that played for us last year, had great springs. Transfer portal, Chris Brazel coming in from Tulane, had a great spring, length, athleticism, great in the red zone. Young receivers, Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley, both dynamic playmakers. Really excited about that group.
And you look at the roster, it's dotted with guys from Middle Tennessee too, and some guys are going to have
We
to
got
play big
14 of them from right here in Mid-State, and almost all of those guys. Almost all those guys were with us in the spring. We got a couple more that are going to come in at the end of May. When I got here, there was orange in Mid-State, but it wasn't flying around like it is right now. And just the passion of the fan base here in Mid-State's been so important to the growth of our program, in particular on the recruiting side of it. Our ability to come here and get the players that we need to get. Really excited about that group.
Coach Barnes, Coach Heimer, things changed this year. Oklahoma, Texas come in. What are your thoughts on the expansion of the league and how's that going to affect scheduling and playing and all that stuff?
I haven't thought anything about it.
Well, I have.
What kind of impact?
Two great brands, not as good as Tennessee, but two great brands that are coming into the conference. Just continues to add to the depth and the quality that's in this conference. And week in and week out, you got to go play, and you got to play extremely well to go win. But looking forward to having them in the league, and obviously we got a trip to Norman that's coming up.
There you go. Coach, what have you been thinking about if you haven't been thinking about expansion and schedules and all that stuff?
Well, I was actually sitting here thinking about Coach Caldwell, just thinking about when Danny White called you and he said, look, I'd like to hire you. I'm going to give you a chance to leave the state of West Virginia and move to the great state of Tennessee. Did you say to him, I got to think about it, or I'm in?
What do you think?
Are we talking about leaving West Virginia to Tennessee or coming to Coach Lady Vols? Don?
Good point. I love West Virginia, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and couldn't get here fast enough.
Great. She's doing great, by the way. We're working. We start our exit meetings with our players, and we're trying to find out what's happening with our program. And then all at once, we find out a couple guys are leaving that we didn't know that were going to leave. And I drove in, and I'm like, what's next? I get out of my truck underneath Pratt Pavilion, and it sounds like a bunch of wild buffalo running on the court. And I walk up there, and I don't think I'm stressed out, but all at once, I would start watching our football coaches staff play basketball, and it was like watching a Laurel and Hardy comedy show.
Did you think they were going to damage the floor? Were you concerned
I
about
thought
that?
that, but then, and I'm watching that nobody gets within 6 feet of Coach Hyper. And he can shoot now. He can shoot, he can pass it. And after I said, why don't you guys guard him? He said, he'll fire us. But he can shoot it. He can, but he does not cross half court. Now, he would fit right in well with Dalton Connect. His idea is, if I'll outscore you, that's good enough.
And it typically is.
It is.
Coach Hoppy, you got rebuttal time about his game. Have you checked his act out yet?
There's been an open invitation for 3 years for their staff to come join us at noon ball and come play. And based on their evaluation of the football coaches playing, they've yet to accept that invitation. They're scared.
I learned a long time ago, if you want to get hurt, play with bad players. They don't know how to react. You go in and you think this guy's going to do this, and they're like,
Listen, no easy points in the paint.
Danny doesn't know he's got to buy us a new backboard.
Transfer portal, we put that off too. Coach, it's a brave new world in basketball. How are you dealing with it right now?
And everything, it's not just basketball, it's everything, and you deal with it. You got to make adjustments, you got to keep up with what's going on with it. And I'm thankful that we got an athletic director and that understands what it's about, and like he's.
What is it about right now, from your standpoint?
Well, you got to find the guys that still fit. Everybody's got a culture, but you got to figure out the ones that fit what you want to do. And first of all, we've got something going. We've had a lot of phone calls. We've filled it with guys calling, wanting to be a part of it. And Jemai Meshack and Zakai Ziegler said it best. We only want guys that want to be here. So we got something special.